exploitation, where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.
The Trademark of Freedom. To be a modern man or woman in the eyes of society can be defined by several terms: customer, client, passenger, user, consumer, resident, citizen, member, patient, and many more. Each refer to a whole person, but cast in a mould defined by whoever issues the description. Most are pretty restrictive terms, some by necessity, such as patient, but others, like consumer, have become prevalent descriptions of individuals which seek to define us in the interests of a modern urban world. To consume is seen as a right, a civilized act of freedom. We are no longer passengers on transport, we are customers, since a ticket has been purchased. A reader at a library is a library user. The emerging trend is the removal of specific description from terms, perhaps to dull understanding of rights and lessen expectation. A passenger expects to be transported, while a customer might be happy with apologetic service and compensation. A reader or scholar would study. A library user might be happy with a cafeteria or DVD loan. No term embraces more than consumer. It seems just what the business agenda wants. A consumer is merely a portal through which goods and services may pass, ultimately to create waste and pollution. Advertising sells us the dream. Yet, ultimately, what sort of life is it for the average consumer? Let us assume full-time employment and a non-subversive outlook for a mean average, non-genderized it. The consumer lives in a country, the UK, which is no longer self-sufficient in food. It probably lives in a town or city even less self-sufficient, so is wholly reliant on the system. To earn the means, money, for it to survive, the consumer must fit that system. It uses technological transport to reach an office complex or industrial zone. It will work hard throughout its sunlit hours, probably subject to microwave emissions throughout the day by mobile phones and the ubiquitous Wi-Fi. It will spout the system's thoughts through its mouth in order to retain employment, and sample processed foods at lunch, plus stimulants like caffeine and possibly nicotine. After a further techno trip home, the consumer will have a few hours of tired passive freedom. It will spend more of its hard-earned cash using expensive electricity or gas to cook more processed foods, then watch a technological device invented in the mid-20th century to fill the remaining hours. Even the most truthful television is vicarious, seeing from a distance, but far worse when the programs seen are compromised lies, blinkered news, or banal reality shows featuring lives as artificially restrained as the consumers. After that it may bathe in water containing chlorine and possibly fluoride, a byproduct of the phosphate industry, then go to sleep and suffer dreams of its stunted workplace. Waking can only bring the ritual again. When Friday comes, a stronger antidepressant called alcohol may be enjoyed, dulling senses from the pain, yet causing sickness which lingers. Perhaps the consumer might venture to the shops for a better television, high definition perhaps, to make that indoor reality seem ever more real, or MP3 players and computer games. After a lay-in on Sunday, maybe there is time for a trip to the park or countryside. While they may be raddled with pollution, there is still the reminder of a past ideal. Yet how quickly such inspiration must be stifled when they return to the weekly routine. This may be broken by a holiday, taking more of the consumer's cash, meaning only work, for the system can buy it. The consumer may escape for a while in a metal flying object, spewing pollutants, to a foreign locale populated by other consumers who lead equally stunted lives, but at least look different and seem novel. When the consumer grows old, it may find peace in finally owning that overpriced mortgaged home, but there may only be a pittance to live on, while the urban centre which paid for this stability now seems a frightening place, full of crowds, noise, changes, unpleasant youths and binge drinkers. Dumbed-down culture has failed to provide a comforting philosophy, so there is no legacy of spiritual uplift. Even the security of the home is clawed back on death by inheritance tax to be paid by other consumers. The consumer idolizes freedom, but this word bears the asterisk of caveat so dreaded of promotional literature, for this is not freedom per se, but the trademark of freedom. Offers of freedom are made to the consumer in accordance with the following terms and conditions. Freedom is subject to the consumer possessing an ID card, a biometric passport, having RFID microchip tags on its body and, subject to approval, a microchip implant in its body. Should your place of residence be subject to tax, it shall be subject to access by the authorities, whether to assess the home's perceived value or to check for unlicensed entertainment units of a televisual description. Freedom, trademark, is a choice between several approved beliefs, and may not be substituted by other ideological products. Your environment may be subject to alteration, defined but not limited to degradation, gentrification, urbanization, polarization, and manipulation, in return for which you may consume. Feels good to be free, at least. Free to enjoy freedom. Trademark.
The information where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.